Eyes on Longmont, offering a diversity of topics about our community that will inform and entertain you. We invite you to sit back and enjoy this edition of Eyes on Longmont.
Hello, my name is Gregg Hansen, and I've come here today to show you exercises of how to develop the 3 notes designed especially for the djembe drum. I call it hand yoga, and it's not only designed specifically for the djembe drum, but also specifically for how I play the djembe drum. So there's 3 elements to it. And number 1, we have to remember we're playing a hand drum. So our hands are taking the place of a stick. And instead of having 1 stick for 3 different drums, we've got 1 hand that's going to have to be 3 different sticks for 1 drum. So we're going to go the 3 main elements of placement of the hand on the drum, isolation of the parts of the hand we want to use, and the mechanics of what part of the hand or arm is making the movement to create our sound. And all of these exercises are about developing muscle memory. And muscle memory is an action. It's something you have to do. And the more you do it is directly related to how successful you be. So I recommend 10 minutes a day or 10 minutes every time you sit down to do the hand yoga exercises. And you would be amazed at how fast this could happen for you. And also to be sure to do it mindfully. If you practice something incorrectly, well, you'll get really good at doing it incorrectly. So we want to be mindful of it, and these exercises will definitely develop that skill in you. Enjoy and have fun. Step 1 of finding the spot on your hand where the bass note is made is going to be made with a prayer mudra. We want to just put both hands together nice and flat so everything's touching. And you have the fingers apart, okay? And if you're looking inside of your hands, between your thumb and your index finger, you'll notice the palms really don't flatten out together. And that's part of it. So, but we're going to press the hands together when I say the number 1, and when I say and, we'll just relax them just a little, but we don't ever want to bend the fingers. We're going to go from straight to just a little bit straighter or a little more pressure. So here we go. On the number of the 1, we're going to press them together, and on the and, we'll just relax them a bit. Ready, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And go ahead and just leave them right there pressing against each other. And just notice that your thumbs are touching, your fingers are all touching each other, and your palm, there's still that little bit of space in there, but that's what we're going to focus on in the next step. The next step is to isolate exactly where we want the hand to expand from. So the bass note, we want a nice flat hand, open like this, but we want to expand the palm. So we're going to take 3 fingers from the other hand. Just take your strong hand and have it face up. And then take 3 fingers from your other hand and just kind of massage that middle of your palm for a minute there. And then just leave your fingers there. And now we're going to expand the hand from the palm. So focus on that palm doing the work, and the rest of your hand will simply react. So keeping the fingers there, once again on the number, we will expand, and on the and, we will just relax just a little. But not really relax. Really what I mean is we're going to go from flat to even flatter or expanded. Here we go. Ready? And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. And hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's step number 2 of finding the bass note. And now take your other hand, what I like to call it the wild hand, if it was your strong hand on the first pass there, and we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to isolate that palm of the hand. We're going to have it nice and open and flat. Take 3 fingers from the other hand and just give it a little tickle, a little massage. And now we're going to expand. Ready? And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. And hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then release. So now we're going to take that area and the whole flat hand and we're going to put it right in the middle of the drum. The bass lives right in the middle there, a little bit off center just because it's not an exact place, but it's going to be right in the middle and a big flat hand, just like we just stretched. So now, after we got our flat hand on the drum, we're going to take the other hand and put it right on top of that wrist. Now, on the bass note, we do not want the wrist to be involved. This is all about the elbow doing all the work here. Now, if your shoulder wants to do the work at first, that's okay, just as long as we don't have the wrist involved, then eventually we'll get that elbow to do all the work. But for right now, let's go ahead. We're going to take that hand right over that wrist, and we're going to pick that hand up with the elbow moving, and we're just going to freeze it right on the drum there with a big open hand. Get the feel, how that whole hand feels making contact. And then we're going to little by little start bouncing off of the drum. Remember, thinking of that palm as being nice and expanded. Everything's touching. Fingers are touching, thumbs are touching, knuckles touching, and the palm. And the elbow is going up and down. And we're going to couple that with the concept of actually pulling the sound out of the drum with the elbow. And that is how the bass note is made on the djembe. We'll do about 100 of these. 98, 99, 100. And now on the other hand, same exact thing. We're going to get that hand nice and flat on the drum. We're going to take the other hand and we're going to put it right on top of that wrist. So we're not going to let that wrist move. And then we're going to start picking it up and let the elbow be the moving part. That's your mechanics. We have the placement, we have the isolation, and the mechanics. We just want to feel how that feels touching the drum all at the same time. And then little by little, we're going to bounce off of the drum. And coupled with the concept of pulling that note right out of the drum. So it's an upward movement. And again, we'll do about 100 of these. 98, 99, 100. So here's just a quick little exercise to further gain some muscle memory on these bass notes. So we'll start on the strong hand, and we know that we don't want to use the wrist. We want the elbow to be the moving part, and everything else is reacting to the elbow. Here we go, starting on the strong hand. I'll give a count, and we're just going to play just really nice, slow, easy notes in a row, quarter notes, so to speak. So we got 1, 2, ready, go. It's just a nice, easy movement. Stay close to your drum. We don't want to be up here trying to make it. It's just a lot more work than we want to do. And we're pulling that note up and staying really close. Palm is extended. The entire hand is making contact. I'm going to count to 4. I'm going to do the same thing on the other hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to count to 4 again, and we're going to alternate the hands. We're going to go strong, wild, strong, wild. 1, 2, 3, 4. See how I'm pulling that sound out? I'm going to count to 4 again, and we're going to reverse direction, as I call it. We're going to go wild, strong, wild, strong. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have to skip a step in there. Now I'll count to 5, and we'll simply end on the number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is how the bass note is made on the djembe drum. The tone on the djembe drum is made with this knuckle right here. Or at least that's how I make my tones. I only use this knuckle. So I'm going to show you ways to get that knuckle exposed and get everything else on your hand out of the way. We're going to start with a prayer mudra, and I want that knuckle, it's right there, right underneath the index, the middle, the ring, and the pinky finger. There's nice big hard bone right there. If you go ahead and touch your hands, you'll notice how hard that is. That's the surface we want to use to strike. Because we want to get a good, because again, we're imitating a stick with our hands. So I want us to go ahead and look at those 2 knuckles, put your hands together in a prayer mudra, and I want you to put those 2 knuckles together and press them together. And now, while you're pressing them together, I want you to separate the rest of your fingers. So that way, it's just your knuckles touching each other, and don't even let your hand or your palms touch. You can just touch the knuckles to each other. Okay? So isolating that, we're going to press with the fingers separated, and then we're going to bring the fingers together. Separate them, bring them together. And we're going to do that by pressing those knuckles together. So moving the fingers apart on 1, and then on the and, we're going to bring them back together. Ready, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then put them back together. That's step 1 of finding the tone. So the next step in finding the tone is to isolate just that knuckle even further. So I want you to take your strong hand. I want you to just put it palm up. And I want you to have the fingers together. And then I want you to, once again, identify these 4 knuckles, these 4 bones right underneath each finger. And I want you to put a fingertip from your other hand right on top of each one. And what we're going to do is we're going to expand that knuckle, and at the same time, the fingers are going to move away from the knuckle. Okay? So here we go. So on this view, we've got the fingers pressing on each knuckle so we can feel those expanding. And then the fingers are going to react by moving out of the way. So here we go. I think we're going to do it just like this. Ready? And so on the number 1, on the numbers, you'll expand, and on the ands, you once again just go back to a regular straight position. Ready? And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. And hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then let them go straight again. And that's step 2 of isolating the tone. So we're going to do the same thing on the other hand. Go ahead and have it palm up, and then we're going to identify those knuckles, fingers together. We're going to identify those 4 knuckles by putting a fingertip of the other hand on each one, and then go ahead and bring it up in this position. And as we expand the knuckle, the fingers will move out of the way. Here we go. Ready? And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. And hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's the isolation of the tone on the left hand. Now we're going to take this information and we're going to take this tone and we're going to take the hand and turn it over. Fingers are still together. And we're going to place that knuckle right on the top edge of the drum. Not on the edge like that, but on the top edge is what I'm describing here. So that it's right on that very edge of the drum. And you want to make sure that all the knuckles are touching. That pinky knuckle is the one that tends to get shorted. So a little bit of an angle, the elbows are a little bit out. This is the way the instrument's played. So we want the thumb to be off the drum, a good 1/2 inch to 1 inch. The knuckles are lined up on top of the drum, and the fingers are together. So now what we're going to do is we're going to press those knuckles, just a little bit into the drum, and on the number 1, we're going to just lift the fingers up. And on the and, we're going to put them back on the drum. Ready? And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. And hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I want you to leave your hand right there. Take your other hand, get right underneath your wrist, because now we're going to only use the wrist to make this note. The wrist is going to be our mechanics for making this sound. So we're going to lift it up and just stay real close and just touch that knuckle Leave those fingers lifted. You'll notice the pinky goes wild. That's normal. So don't pay too much attention to my pinky. It's the knuckle that I'm wanting to make contact, and it is. Little by little, start lifting that note up, lifting that knuckle up with the wrist. And again, concept of pulling the note out of the drum. So when you start close, you really have no choice but to pull up. And again, we'll do about 100 of these. If you're not making a lot of sound at first, it's okay. That's part of the process. As long as you're isolating and making contact with the knuckles, eventually those fingers will get out of the way. 98, 99, 100. Let's take the other hand, same thing, isolating and identifying the MCP knuckle. We're going to put that right on the top edge of the skin, making sure the pinky knuckle is making contact. We're going to make sure the thumb is out, off the drum and out of the way. And just an added aside to that, if you find your thumb sticking down, that's an action. We try not to let this thumb do anything. So just get used to just kind of it's hanging out of the way like that. You'll get used to it. And if your thumb starts whacking the edge of the drum, well, you'll really get it out of the way then. Okay, so we got the tone knuckle right on the top of the drum. And once again, we're going to lift the fingers on the number, and on the and, we're going ahead and put them back on the drum. Ready, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, leave them right there. Take the other hand underneath that wrist and a little bit behind it, and then just letting the wrist do the work. Just isolate that knuckle and just touch it. Just feel what it feels like to touch that drum. That's another kind of muscle memory, is that touch muscle memory. Getting used to how that feels, and if you do it enough times, your hand will just automatically go there. That's why it's called muscle memory. And then little by little, isolating that knuckle, pulling it up with the wrist. And even if your fingers get in the way, eventually, as long as you're focusing on that knuckle, it will get there. But again, we must contact with the knuckle and the concept of pulling that note out. And again, only with the wrist. 98, 99, 100. So now we're going to do the same little exercise that we did on the bass. So we're going to start with the strong hand tone, and we're just going to play quarter notes. We'll play them for a while, then I'll cue us to go to the other hand, then we'll alternate, and then we'll reverse the alternation. So here we go. Starting with the strong hand, once again, fingers closed, knuckles lining up on the top edge of the drum, thumb a good ½ inch to an inch off the drum, but just suspended, and the wrist doing the work. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Notice how I'm pulling that sound up. And I'm also watching myself very carefully. So if you take your eyes off your hands, there's no telling what they'll do. So this is the mindful part of practicing, is really keeping an eye on yourself. I'm going to count to 4. Let's do the same thing on the other hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little bit of an angle to my hand, making sure I got that pinky knuckle making contact. Okay, now we're going to join the sides or alternate. Strong, wild, strong, wild. 1, 2, 3, 4. Strong, wild, strong, wild. And I'll count to 4 again, and we're going to reverse, going wild, strong, wild, strong. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wild, strong, wild, strong. And I'll count to 5, and on 5, I want you to end on a bass note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like that. And that is your whole workout for the tone. For the slap, we are once again going to start with the prayer mudra. This time we want to have our fingers open. And this time we're going to press our fingerprints together, right where your fingerprints are. Make those have a good strong contact, and your knuckle is making contact as well. So we got fingerprints and the knuckles from the tone, same knuckles that we used in the tone, are going to be making the primary contact. So let's go ahead and make them touch each other, especially right now. And what we're going to do is, again, I'm going to, on the number, we'll press them together. And on the and, we'll just relax them a little bit, but they'll always touch throughout this entire exercise. Just one, on the number, they'll touch, they'll press together firmly, and then just touch lightly on the and. Ready, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then lightly touch. And that's step 1 of the slap. So we're going to go right from the prayer mudra on the slap right to the placement of on the drum. So we're going to be the same place as the tone. We have the knuckles in the same place. Fingers are apart now. Thumb is in the same place, up and out of the way. But now we're going to press our fingerprints down into the drum, and we're going to press that knuckle. Those are the 2 primary points of contact. And now we're going to imagine that there's a little string, a little thread coming from each finger, and we're going to wind the fingers a little bit straighter than they already are. And we're going to watch as our fingers never leave the drum. They're going to always be on the drum. So it might not look like we're doing a lot, but it will feel like it. Here we go. Get ready to extend the fingers even longer than they are. Ready, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. And hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Leave your hand right there. Once again, take your other hand, get behind that wrist. And now we're going to, again, use the wrist, but we're going to feel the knuckles and the fingerprints and the whole length of the fingers making contact. So it's not just getting the fingers out of the way, but totally using them. And once again, as you go into the drum, feel those fingerprints making a nice contact. And then little by little, start pulling it up with the wrist. And the more that your fingerprints are a little firm and your fingers are straight, a little bit lengthened, you'll start getting a ringy sort of sound out of the drum. And once again, you're pulling the note up. "98, 99, 100. And now let's get the other hand in the same position, making sure that the knuckles for the tone are all right in the same place. The thumb is up and out of the way. The fingers are open. The fingerprints are pressing into the drum as well as the knuckles. And that the middle of your fingers have no choice but to go along, right? Okay, here we go. We're going to stretch the fingers a little bit longer with that imaginary thread. Ready? And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. And hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then leaving your hand right there, go behind that wrist with the other hand, and let's just start feeling how that feels to put the whole knuckle and length of fingers on the drum. Again, the wrist is the moving part. Notice how my fingers never bend. In fact, through all these exercises, the fingers are never bent, ever. And now, little by little, pressing those fingerprints in and pulling the hand up. And the knuckle is always making contact as well. It takes the knuckle and the fingerprints to make the slap. "98, 99, 100. So we're going to do the same little exercise, starting with the strong hand. Get your hand in the slap position, knuckles on the top edge, thumb about an inch to a half inch to an inch off the drum, up and out of the way, fingers apart, and focusing on the fingerprints and the knuckle. Quarter notes on the strong hand. 1, 2, ready, go. You'll notice the slap has a little bit of ring to it. That's what we want. Then focusing on that upward movement. I'll give a count for the other hand. 1, 2, ready, go. And then we'll join the sides. Strong, wild, strong, wild. 1, 2, 3, 4. You notice I'm not actually slapping the drum. Just reaching in and pulling that note out. We're going to go ahead and reverse. Wild, strong, wild, strong. 1, 2, ready, go. And I'm staying real close, just like all the other notes. The closer, the better. And I'll count to 5. On 5, we'll end on a bass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is how you make the slap on the djembe drum. Okay, so now I'm just going to put all 3 of these notes together in a very simple rhythm, just to show you how they look, all combined like that. And also notice how the fingers never ever bend. There's never a moment when I bend my fingers when I make my notes on the djembe drum. I can't speak for all djembe players in the world, but this is exactly how I make my notes. So here we go, a really simple little rhythm. We're going to go bass, bass, tone, tone, and then a couple slaps. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and. So we got bass, tone, slap, tone. Now notice how I'm just coming straight off the bass, but the tones and slaps are my wrist. And one more time. And we can get a little fancier. We can do what I call the boom chukka boom chicka, where we go bass, tone, tone, bass, slap, slap, like this. One, two, three, 4, 5. Now, once you get those mechanics going, and once you get your bass note nice and bouncing up off your drum, and your wrist nice and flexible for your tones and slaps, and stay close to your drum, you can move into something like this. See, I'm really close. Like that.